thank you for joining me on another episode of my top 50 pinball machines. I'm not going to labour the point by going through all the rules and all the criteria again. Suffice to say, this is quite deep into the series. If you go to episode 1, it'll all be explained if you're interested as to why my top 50 is different to the Pinside top 50. There is one criteria which you probably should be aware of before we start, and that is that to qualify and get onto the board of my top 50, the pinball machine has to have lived in this house. Now, since I'm certainly not wealthy enough to go around buying lots and lots of pinball machines, I rely on people loaning them to me. I rely on the generosity of our channel sponsor, Pinball Heaven, friends, just generally good pinball folk, which has allowed me to have a large number of pinball machines through this house. Gives me a good turnover of games, so as I can, I think, appraise them in the comfort of my own home rather than in a sort of noisy arcade on location, so to speak. So today's episode, I'm going to be dealing with Jackbot, which was, I think it was my second game. It was either my second or third game. And I'll also be dealing with Dolly Parton. Not the singer, the pinball machine, you understand. And, well, we'll get to them both individually. But I'm sort of hurrying through a few more of these because I want to populate the board. I was asked a question a few days ago by one of you fine folk in the chat, in the comments, and I do read every single one, by the way. And they were asking, where's the big hitters? Why haven't I featured... What do I mean big hitters? Why Godzilla? I have a Godzilla. Why haven't I featured a Deadpool? Lebowski is on there, actually. So Lebowski's, as you'll see, is number 2 on the board. Batman 66 was a real favourite of mine. Foo Fighters, which is just out of shot at the moment in the West Wing over there. It's not really a West Wing. I'm making it sound more grand than it is. It's basically a shed. I'm sat in a shed. Why haven't I featured any of those? I think I'm sort of saving them in many respects because I'm just trying to mix it up a little bit, and I think I want to get a couple of the other sort of mid-table games in and around there, populate the list. I think so. But anyway, I think it's certainly time at the moment to get a couple of them done. So let's really start with Jackbot, which is a Williams game, and I was very enthusiastic about getting into pinball, and I was very, very pleased to get hold of this Jackbot machine, which was mine. It wasn't loaned to me. I bought it. A really nice guy over in Ireland, and he'd made a beautiful job of it. I thought it was in really excellent condition. Now, it's probably worth pointing out that I had the Jackbot before I started doing this as a YouTube channel, so I don't have much footage. I do like to incorporate footage from the games I've had and put them in here, which is one of the reasons you haven't seen much Star Trek Next Generation, which I've had, Lord of the Rings, which I had, but I had 2 games that spent a lot of time here, but I had them and sold them before I was able to adequately film them. So that's why I've not featured those 2 as yet. But I thought, you know what, there's no way I'm going to get any decent Jackbot footage, so you just have to deal with what I got. But so I'll flash some imagery up, which will hopefully prove that I did honestly really own one. But it shows you how long ago it was, because my daughter, in one of the videos I'll pop up, is playing it, and she's hitting both flipper buttons, as young children have a tendency to do before they learn to play the game, and she looks really young. So yeah, I definitely had a Jackbot. I was very excited to get it, and when I received it, I was completely underwhelmed by the Jackbot, actually. Popeye was a game which I really enjoyed. I know it sits bottom of the list at the moment, but I got enough enjoyment, and the family got enough enjoyment out of Popeye that encouraged me to continue in the pinball hobby in terms of pinball ownership. Jackbot almost dissuaded me, almost got me out of the hobby. That's how bad I thought it was. And there are very few games that have made me angry over the years. One of them is Jackbot, clearly, and the other 2 are Walking Dead, and actually, believe it or not, Stranger Things. But we'll get to that another time when I do Stranger Things. But I'm not suggesting, by the way, that Stranger Things is all bad, is absolutely terrible. But I am probably going to argue now that Jackbot is. I didn't enjoy it at all. I should probably say my daughter loved it. There's on the game, there's a bank of targets at the back, and if you knock the targets down, sort of like a little wall drops down, and then there are 2 holes. I think they're like eyes. She used to call them the eyes, my daughter. And if you lock 2 balls in there, you get a multi-ball. She loved that. So my daughter actually, because that's all she did. She was young, as you see in the video, and didn't really know what she was doing. So she actually, out of everybody in the family, she really enjoyed it. sorry, let me just go through the criteria and get through this quite quickly, so I don't want this to be a half an hour video like some of them are. So my criteria of my top 50, is it fun? Jackbot, no, I didn't find it fun at all. Was it addictive? No. I switched it off constantly. I was in a lucky position for some of the time. I actually had Star Trek Next Generation here at the same time. I just ended up playing that all the time, really. Does it have humour? No, it doesn't have any humour at all. Charm and personality? I thought it had none. It's really hard because, I mean, these are the reasons I like pinball machines. This is why it's my top 50. The criteria and the way I'm assessing them are what I value in a pinball machine. I do value whether it's fun. I do value humorous call-outs. I do value whether it's charming. Those things are really important to me. How approachable it is, how understandable the sort of rule set is. They're all really important to me, and this doesn't have an understandable rule set at all. It's based, if I've got this right, it's on an intergalactic casino. I mean, I'm just not interested at all in that stuff, really, at all. I don't like casino stuff anyway, never mind an intergalactic one, so I don't really know what was going on. Toys and mechanisms, not really. I think the wall coming down, whoopee-doo. You know, as there's one, and a much better one, on Attack from Mars, but at least when you get that wall down on Attack from Mars, you feel that there's a reward there. You've got the flying saucer there. There's nothing like that on this. And on the left, ramp raises up a bit, but so what? You know, I honestly couldn't care less. I don't even think, no, the ramp shots were not particularly good shots. What is it approachable? I don't think so. I don't think it's approachable at all. I thought it was a pretty terrible game, really. I do apologise if you've got one of these, by the way, and I do absolutely appreciate that not every pinball machine is for every person. So yeah, I do absolutely get it. Shots and positions, awful, absolutely awful. From the very outset. So the skill shot is awful. It goes into this sort of spiral twirly thing. Hate it. Horrible thing. There's this, I mean, wow, people talk about the Path of the Dead, which is on the left-hand side of Lord of the Rings. They talk about that as killing the momentum of the game. That's nothing compared to this. It seems like this big sheet of plastic, or it's almost like an upper playfield, but it's not, because you can't control the ball. It just bounces off rubbers and posts. It can take forever to drop down. So as you can get to play a shot again. It obscures so much of the playfield. In fact, I would suggest that probably only 2/3, if I'm being generous here, 2/3 of the playfield are visible on Jackbot. It's an awful waste of space. It really is, and I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean actually, literally. It is a waste of space metaphorically as well as literally. It is a waste of space on the playfield. Absolutely awful. The rules, goodness knows. It's one of those games, and I do. When I did the video recently about do DMDs, do video modes really have a place in pinball? I don't think they do now, as I mentioned, because you can get a better game on your mobile phone or on the Xbox than you can. There's no point putting them on a screen on a pinball machine when video games are so much better. But back then, back in the 90s, I get it. This just wasn't a particularly good one. It's a lot of gambling stuff. You can roll the dice. You can gamble up. You can. I mean, there's like blackjack and there's whatever poker. In all honesty, I can't remember fully, and I'm glad I can't remember fully because I'm sort of really quite pleased to have forgotten large parts of this game. I just didn't like it at all. By the end of it, and Spencer will laugh because only Spencer knows, I had a really insulting name, which it was full of profanity, and I probably couldn't. And I won't repeat it in this video, that's for sure. Achievable goals, I guess it does. And then the other thing, is it rewarding or is it frustrating? There was nothing rewarding about it at all, and I think it might be the second most frustrating game I've ever played in my life. Finally, do I regret it leaving? Not in the least. I was really pleased to see. I was so pleased to see it go. I actually drove it. I didn't even wait for it to be collected. I actually drove it, and I hope it's gone to in fact, it did go to a good home, a really good home, and a really nice games room of somebody that really loved pinball. So that was great, and I was really pleased it did. But I was absolutely delighted to be shot of it. So, and do you know what? I'm pleased to have got that out the way on this video. Jackbot is done. Is done. We don't have to talk about it any more at all. Right. Do you know what I've just realised? I haven't actually written out my little magnetic strips. I'm going to pause the video now. I'm going to write out the magnetic strips, and then I'm going to get back to this video, and we will deal with Dolly Parton, the pinball machine, not the lady. There you go. Done it now. Dolly Parton. So that's ready to go. So we've got to put it on the list afterwards. That's the whole point of the video. I walk up to the board and I put these on the list. And of course, there it is, Jackbot. If this is the first video in the series that you've seen, I can't stress highly enough. You need to go and watch the other videos first. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of out of context stuff in this video. I'm just sort of aware of that. Before I discuss the Dolly Parton pinball machine, I just really wanted to thank so many people. Far more people watch this than I ever thought would. Let's just say that from the outset. But I really love how invested people are. People are genuinely interested. People message me, people phone me up, they have messages on the YouTube comments, and they're genuinely interested to see what is coming up next, about the games they want me to review. And I think when I started doing it as well, I thought, oh, if I'm mean to a game that somebody else likes, I'm gonna get a lot of abuse. But you know, I thought I would. People wouldn't take kindly to it. I think the big one was obviously Medieval Madness, which is a really good game. A really good game. And it's worth stressing that, you know, once I do the 50 on here, I will keep going. If I end up having 57 games through it, I'll rate them all eventually. There's a lot of rubbish games I haven't had through here. So realistically, I think the games that are above Medieval Madness are really, really good games. But I thought, oh, if I put Medieval Madness quite low down, and it will get lower because there are plenty of games that I've had that I prefer to Medieval Madness. I thought, oh, are people gonna be upset? You know, because I find it a bit boring. Truth be known, Medieval Madness not the worst game in the world. It is. There's lots of good things to it, but it's a bit boring. And I just, you know, the way everybody's responded to this series, I've really appreciated. So thank you very much indeed. Right, okay, let's. There we are. Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton. It's hard to talk about Dolly Parton without telling a story. It was lent to me by Keith at New Forest Pinball. He wonderfully restored this great game, and it's amazing and fantastic game, and did a great job. And it was, so he's got this, he lends it, it's on tour, he calls it Dolly on tour. So I'm not the only person to have borrowed this game from him. And I owe him a real debt of gratitude, not just for borrowing the game, which was very nice of him to lend me the game, but actually for introducing me to these older, what I would call a classic solid state. Now, I'm calling it a classic solid state. You guys might not. When I have mentioned it before, there's been a few people who know far more about pinball than I do have said that's a little bit vague. It may well be, but that's how I look at it. So I think Dolly Parton was a 1979, so it's a 1979 Bally. And I had no interest in playing these games whatsoever, not at all. And Dolly Parton for me has been the gateway into enjoying some of those other games. Without Dolly Parton, I wouldn't have bought 8 Ball Deluxe. I think that's really clear to say that. It's opened my eyes to other pinball ownership. It's certainly made me, if many ways, there was a point when every pinball I had was a Stern Spike 2 LCD game, and it sort of weaned me off that, and I think probably broadened my horizons and allowed me to start looking more at other games. And so brilliant. I understand it is probably not the best of that era, you know, be it 79, whatever, 80, 81. I know there's lots and lots of classic games. I know Sturm are making good games then as well, and I know there's some Gottliebs from that time, but I wasn't interested in any of them, and now I am, and I very much look forward to obviously finishing the project with Ant for the 8 Ball Deluxe and sharing it with you. Dolly Parton, it's an amazing game, and I've got to say, more than any other game, probably Dolly Parton and Champion Pinside are 2 games where non-pinball people would come round, they would carry on playing. There are many games that attract people, and I'm talking about my friends that come round, as I say, no interest in pinball, just old friends, family members, and just some games keep them playing. Dolly Parton was one. And I think one of the reasons with Dolly Parton being one is it took 30 seconds to explain the rules. And it was such a sort of hard game, it was a bit of a leveller. So even if someone's noticeably better than somebody else, they can still have a bad game because it'd be quite cruel. A Dolly Parton game, it really can. And there's really something to not having to explain a long rule set. There's a real benefit to that. And once people know what they've got to do, which is light Dolly Parton, maybe you can increase your scoring by hitting some of the drop targets, by increasing the spinner. The spinner, which is, I think, one of my favourite spinners I've ever experienced in pinball, it's just satisfying hitting that spinner. It makes a wonderful sound, a wonderful, wonderful sound. And people would just keep coming back. And it wasn't just non-pinball people. I've been very, very lucky. I've had some very good pinball players in here. Some of the UK's top players have been here. And I've got to say, with a number of them, we've ended up playing Dolly Parton. That's what we end up playing. And I've been very, very lucky to do that. And it's funny, everyone have a game on everything else, but what do you end up doing? You end up playing Dolly Parton. They're quick games. There's just so much to love about it. And I wouldn't even call it genius. It's just simplicity, and it just works, and it's accessible. So going back to my list, is it fun? Really fun. Really, really good fun. Is it addictive? Massively. It's huge. I can't think of a more addictive game off the top of my head. There will be some, but I can't think of one. And when I say addictive, do I want to press the start button again over and over and over? I had it in my mind that I had to light Dolly and I had to light Parton, and if I could get all the targets down and then start ripping the spinner, I just had it in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. It's very hard to do that. It's very, very hard to do that without losing the ball, and it does have a habit of kicking your ass. Now, whilst the targets between each round will reset and they'll pop back up, you keep your progress in terms of the letters of her name that you've lit, which is really the name of the game. Charm and personality, tons of it. Absolutely tons of it. It's full of it. It's full of charm and personality. Toys and mechanisms, none. None. There's not a single one. There's not a single one, but I will tell you now, just because of the way it is, the saucer on there and the spinner on there are better than some mechanisms on some games. They just work. They mean something. Because they're such big parts of the game, because there are no mechanisms in there, I think, maybe because there's no ramps or whatever it is, they mean something. That spinner really, really means something. I'm pretty sure there are spinners. There must be. I think there are. There's spinners on those. There are spinners on all those games. There's a spinner on that game. None of the spinners on any of the games in this house mean more than the spinner on Dolly Parton. You have to hit that spin. You've got to do it. You've got to do it. So yes, so there's no toys and mechanisms, none. Is it approachable? I've already mentioned that. Everyone plays Dolly Parton, and it really did, and they all got it. Shots and positions, they're all right. There's nothing special. There's no one special shot on there. None. If I did a video, and one day I will do the video, the top 50 shots in pinball or something like that, there'll be no Dolly Parton shots on there. So no excellent shots. The orbit's nice through the spinner, as I've mentioned. No outstanding shots. No mechanisms. But this game is going to sit pretty high on that board. The rules, I've mentioned, easy. Like Dolly Parton. Hit some stand-up targets. That rip the spinner. That's it. Try and not lose the ball. There's a good rule for you. Achievable goals, 100%. Absolutely achievable goals. Absolutely. Rewarding, frustrating. It's very rewarding. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Dolly Parton, but I think a lot of those older games, maybe you might find the same with Flash Gordon or something, they can be frustrating because you lose the ball. But that's the nature of those games. But here's the thing, and I think about it, back in the day when it might have been. Frustrating, yes, but probably rewarding and addictive enough for you to want to, on location, put another coin in the slot and have another game. And that's the trick, isn't it? That's really why we're there. And I go back again, as I've referred to, probably my most referred to pinball machine. I go back to Attack from Mars, which is pure mastery of giving you enough encouragement to come back again, but stopping you from ruling the universe. I don't mean... look, if you have Attack from Mars in your own house, you will rule the universe. You really will. But I'm talking about if you're if you're out and you're on location and you're maybe not a fantastic, you're not a massive pinhead, you just want to play some games. It was great at that Attack from Mars. Enough encouragement to come back. Put another coin in the slot. Really good. Dolly Parton's like that. So yes, it can be frustrating. Do I regret it leaving? Yeah, I mean it's a bit of a loaded question, but it's my own question. I guess I guess it's do I miss it, and I do miss it. I don't regret it leaving because I was pleased somebody else could get to enjoy it, and I was honoured and thrilled that Keith lent it to me. And I feel so blessed to have had it, because it opened up a whole new world of pinball to me. So, yeah, I sort of don't regret it leaving because it had to leave in order for it to arrive, if that makes any sense. But I do miss it. I absolutely do miss Dolly Parton. And I remember relatively recently there was on the forum, on the UK Pinball forum, and somebody mentioned that they might have a Dolly Parton for sale, and immediately I thought, oh, yeah. Of course, I absolutely would. And it's quite funny, actually, particularly the way Keith had done it up. And it's beautiful because it's so, it's something that's going to appeal. Like I've got 3 daughters, because it's pink and it's girly and it's got all that stuff about it. It's probably the one pinball machine that I would get away with living permanently inside the house. There'd be no complaints. And you know what? I think it would be a game worthy of... You wouldn't have Sopranos inside the house, put it that way. But it'd be the one game that would be worthy of being inside there. So there you have it. Jackbot and Dolly Parton. I'm sure you've guessed which one is going to be above the other, judging by how I've been speaking about both of those games. So we're going to pop over to the board now, and we're going to decide where they go. I'm going to have to make a few spaces in the board because it's really good. There's 13 games up there, so this will, well, as I'm sure you've already done your maths already because you're a clever bunch, this will take it to 15. 15 on the board. I'm really pleased with that, and I'm certainly going to be motivated to do more. And it's, the things you guys say absolutely motivates me. There's no way I would have done this video today, because I only uploaded 2 or 3 days ago. There's no way I would have done this video today without so much interaction and your encouragement, and be it on the forum, because as Chris and Keith were both asking, certainly Scott was asking last night. Scott from Scotland, there you go, and a number of people in the comments on here as well. So it really encourages me to do it, and I it was something very, very interesting actually, because Scott on the forum last night, he tried to guess what my final top 5 would be. I thought, oh wow, this is, because I don't know. The truth is, I don't know yet. But I was delighted that he was trying to guess it. So yeah, cheers, Scott. That's pretty cool, mate. But you're missing one, and so many of you, when you're trying to second guess, a lot of you are missing a pinball machine that's pretty high up in my list. I'm not going to give you any more clues actually, but I'm gonna populate the list a little bit more. Maybe when I get it to 20 or something like that, then I'll do a big hitter. I might do it before, so I might do a Godzilla or a Batman 66 or a Deadpool or something like that, and just get another one up there. But hey, look, thanks for joining in. Thanks for enjoying it. Anyways, I was just about to say goodbye then. Can't say goodbye yet. We've got to go and put it on the board. Guys, we've got Jackbot and we've got Dolly Parton here. I'm not going out of my way to be overly controversial on this, but I'm just going to go for it anyway. Look, I think let's get the first one out of the way. It's Jackbot. Very, very simple decision for me, this, because every one of the other games on this list has given me some form of joy. This hasn't, so it has to go at the bottom. I'm not going to pretend and take ages to be dramatic and take ages looking like I'm deciding where to put it. It's going down the bottom. There's not going to be much finishes lower than Jackbot, but I can think of about 4 games that are in the mix. Let's put it that way. Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton. Well, what a great game. So let's just cut straight to it. When I get to this point, it's a case of you've got to forget about value and financial value. So I always just try and imagine that I'm somebody with no pinball machines and somebody's going to lend me one for a year, because it takes value out of it, because otherwise you just choose Medieval Madness every time because it's probably the highest value pinball machine on there. Maybe I'm wrong, but you know what I mean. So if I take value out of it, what would I rather have at my house for a year? I will tell you now, I would prefer Dolly Parton to Medieval Madness. Absolutely, I would. It'd be more fun for me and more fun for everybody else. I would actually have it over World Cup Soccer. So now we're in a realm of some not just really good games that I value highly in terms of enjoyment and fun. I think, looking at it, I wouldn't have it before Attack from Mars. I wouldn't have it before The Big Lebowski. I'd pick Fishtails over it. I'd probably take Elvira's House of Horrors over Dolly Parton. It's a great game. And they keep bringing out new versions to try and remind me how good a game it is. That red one looks great though, right? The Bloodsucker one, whatever it is. I'd probably have Elvira's House of Horrors. So it really is, where does this sit? For me, this is somewhere here. It's somewhere between Champion Pub and Sopranos. It's in that mix. It's fun. I love playing them. I think I'm going to put it... I think eventually, over the year, I would probably get bored of Sopranos first. There's no slight on Sopranos. I think it's a great game, but I think I would probably get bored of that first. So it's a case of really... whether it's this or Champion Pub. It's funny, Champion Pub always seems to feature, but Champion Pub is a pivotal game for me because it's like I don't know, it's like the gatekeeper, you know? I think what I'm going to do is I am going to put Dolly Parton under... God, these magnets are strong. I'm going to put Dolly Parton underneath Champion Pub. But... it's looking good. I think the list is looking good. I really do. I don't know if hopefully you can see. I don't know if I've set the camera up properly. Hopefully you can see Jackbot at the bottom there at the moment. There's some good games at the top of that list. You know, look, if you could have 5 games and they were Attack from Mars, Big Lebowski, Fishtails, Elvira's House Horrors, and Champion Pub, you'd be having a lot of fun at home. Dolly Parton there, but Dolly Parton, there's no shame in that. That's ahead of some pretty damn fine games. This is a great game. This is another great game. No, not so much. No, look, Avengers Infinity Quest, I'll just say now, as I'm not rubbishing all of these, I'm looking for the complete package. Avengers Infinity Quest probably has the best shots of any game on there. I do. I firmly believe that. It's just the other stuff that I value sort of lets it down. So there you have it. I don't know what I'll do next, although I'm giving some serious thought to seeing where Monsters goes.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency. Ah, I see that your pinball skills are less than galactic. Well, Starfleet regulation specifically prohibits me from doing any kind of endorsement, but I do suggest a sustained dose of Gonzo's pinball flipperama might help remedy the affliction that you suffer from. In other words, should you have to pilot a shuttlecraft or even a starship, you would need a better reaction time than you presently seem to demonstrate. So please consider a sustained dose of Gonzo's pinball flipperama to remedy this affliction, or perhaps some other kind of flipperama that I'm not aware of. All right? EMH, out.